Hello, Panhandle folks. And as I had mentioned earlier, we have a new guest, and her name is Kim Politz. That's how we say the last name, right? Politz?
Politz.
Politz. Oh, I'm sorry.
Politz.
Okay.
It's like the police, but Politz.
With the TZ.
TZ at the end,
TZ.
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I said it. I'll say it that way.
That's
Politz.
okay.
But Kim is actually with Assurance Financial.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Correct.
is a loan officer. She's a licensed loan officer, correct?
That's correct. I'm licensed in Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and Florida.
Wow, I had no
Yeah.
idea you were licensed that
Yeah.
far over.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Hey, you're
I'm
like-
covering the whole Gulf Coast.
Yeah, the southern states.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you say Georgia?
No, Georgia.
Oh, okay. Well,
No,
still,
Georgia.
those are close states to home.
Right,
And
right.
I had no idea on that. And
Yeah.
I met Kim last week at a forum, and it was just a great wealth of information at that forum. They had guest speakers such as financing and then insurance, and then just, of course, other realtors that went over some of the contracts that we use. And so with Kim, I was very, very impressed with your presentation.
Thank you.
Very thorough, and it was just like, I just did nothing but was all ears.
Good. That's
And
good to know.
Yeah, and no one really had any questions, so you did a good job. I
You
loved it.
wonder sometimes if if you've been thorough enough, or if you're boring people if there's no questions.
No,
you know?
it was, and I'm telling you, Kim, I used to be a licensed mortgage loan
Right.
originator.
I remember you
originator.
telling me that.
Yeah, and so this was my lingo,
Yeah, yeah.
So I was really like keen in on everything that you
Good.
said, because
Good.
some of the realtors don't really understand financing. Well,
Correct.
maybe the younger, not the seasoned ones. So yeah, I was very impressed, and so
Thanks.
this podcast is gearing towards real estate. Of course, everyone knows I'm a realtor, and then
Right.
as realtors, we always go to these seminars or
Right.
forums because we just gain a lot more knowledge.
Of
and
course.
I believe that we just really have to tune in to what's
Yeah.
the new updated version or updated changes in the real estate. So I'm really wanting to hear a lot. I just got my Alabama license in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. And when I heard that you had many years, 25 years of being a mortgage loan officer, I was
Yes.
like, all right, I love this. And so, and
Yeah.
of course, Alabama, I'm gearing towards Alabama.
Sure.
Of course, I'm in Florida. So I want you to be my go-to girl in Alabama.
I would
and
love to be
Louisiana
your-
and
Yeah.
wherever else.
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is good. And, real estate with the business, I love local businesses. I like to work
Sure.
with them, build relationships. And so,
Absolutely. That's important.
yes, ma'am, it sure is. But yeah, since we're gearing towards the financial, the questions I had noted. Of course, every lender, every bank has their own products. Sometimes the loan officers that I had on the last podcast, they had their own niche, okay? Whether it was cash to keys and
Sure.
then another one for new construction.
Sure.
But with you, also, I know, can you tell us a little bit about your company? Because
course.
most lenders, of course, have their, the basic lending,
Right.
mortgages. And then,
Right.
of course, I know whenever you were speaking that day, you really were getting into are your clients going to be second home? Is it going to be second homes or the investment? So if we could kind of start off with, what to anticipate when you're buying a condo, because that's where
Sure.
I'm trying to farm is
Sure.
along the beach.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so Assurance Financial Group is based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're a nationwide company. We are in, I believe, all but 2 or 3 states. We are a full service mortgage lender. I think we just celebrated 23 years as a company.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a good milestone.
Yes.
So we run the gamut with programs. I mean, obviously we have our, your full conventional FHA, VA, rural development. And what I've stepped into here in my market on the coast is condominium financing. I feel like that has become my niche in this market. Previously, it was first-time home buyers. I did a lot of that, but now that I've moved over into this area and along this coastline, more of the buyers where I am are looking for investments. So condos are a big deal in this area. Let me touch a little bit on, I guess, the difference between a true second home and an investment property before we kind of dive into condos.
Yeah.
And when we're speaking to investment, we could be speaking to single family properties as well. This doesn't just apply to condominium financing. So back in, I want to say it was the middle of 2021, Fannie Mae came out with a directive whereby they decided that they were going to classify from a pricing standpoint, from interest rates and the cost to do the mortgage, they were going to classify second homes the same as investment properties. And a little background or reason behind that is, when the rates were in the 2s and 3s, everyone was buying investment property because everyone could afford to buy investment property. And so Fannie Mae's portfolio became saturated with second home and investment properties. And that's really was not their mission and goal when they started their agency. It was to provide affordable housing to moderately income families. So they kind of took a position to step back from condo financing or from investment property financing and second homes. A true second home is going to be, it's a single family or a condominium or a multifamily up to 4 units, is going to be something that you're actually, as a buyer, going to utilize personally as a vacation home. And you do not necessarily need the rental income from that property to qualify for the loan. Makes sense?
Yeah.
If you need the rental income, then it becomes it's an investment at that point, if you need the rental income to qualify. So with that being said, the way you can finance these properties is either going to be a traditional financing under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's guidelines, but you're going to pay higher interest rates because Fannie Mae came out and said, we've got too many of these loans in our pipeline, we need to pump the brakes, and the way we're going to do that is by increasing the rates, okay? On a true second home, you're still allowed to put a minimum of 10% down, whereas with a true investment property, Fannie Mae requires 25% down on an investment property, okay? And segueing into the fact that they raised the rates to make it unaffordable, unattractive to buyers, you see the development of these new, what we call non-QM or non-qualified mortgages, which are basically mortgage loans that don't fit under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's criteria. And this is what we're seeing used a lot on condos. And it's 2 names for it: an investor cash flow program or a debt service coverage ratio. And it's really simple. It's basically, the debt service coverage ratio is the total income or earnings of the property divided by the expense, the house note, the mortgage payment, plus the HOA dues. That number needs to equal 1% or better, okay? And that is the way now that most people are leaning towards financing on these investment properties. They are no employment, no income loans. So the buyer does not provide any income documentation or employment information. It's based on credit score, down payment, and verifying assets, and then verifying the earnings or the potential earnings or the rental income for the property. It's a great program.
That's a great product.
It really is. It reminds me back in the day when we did I don't know if you remember the Nina loans, the no income, no asset.
Yes,
so which is why we experienced the crash that we did probably, but it's a great product. It really is. It's quick closings, and it's just a great product for investors. There are some resources out there that will allow as little as 20% down on that program for seasoned investors. So if you have a buyer that's got a portfolio and they're looking to add to it, they can get in with 20% down.
Okay.
First timers
typically that's about the average. I mean, from all the products I've seen, it's always 20% down.
Yeah.
So,
With investment, it's generally it's 25%.
Yeah,
So
25, okay.
that's a great product for investment properties.
Okay.
And second homes as well. So when we get into condos, the mortgage process typically on a single family, you're buying your first house or you're upgrading or you're buying a vacation home, single family property. Typically, you're going to qualify under traditional financing, right? Mm-hmm. And you have the one approval you're dealing with is the approval of the buyer, correct? And they qualify based on debt to income. When someone is purchasing a condo, it's twofold. You have the approval process of the borrower, which is the credit score, the assets, those types of things, the credit history. But you also have the approval process of the condominium project itself. So as a lender, we have to perform due diligence to determine whether or not that condo project is considered a warrantable or non-warrantable. People say, what's warrantable? Warrantable just means that condo project fits under Fannie Mae's criteria. If it does, you can do traditional financing. If it does not, that's when you move into these non-qualified mortgages or these non-QM mortgages. So as a buyer, it's really important to understand when you're going through this process, when you're buying a condominium, you're dealing with two levels of approval. You're dealing with the approval of the buyer and the approval of the condo project. Some things that could make a condo project non-warrantable would be short-term rentals. Well, let's face it, all the condo projects along the coast have short-term rentals. Mm-hmm. So you're almost always gonna, when you're looking at condo financing, you're almost as a buyer gonna go into that realm of what we call non-QM or non-qualified mortgages, right? Mm-hmm. And by non-qualified, that just means it doesn't conform to traditional financing methods. Mm-hmm. That's all non-qualified mortgages are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of, where that is. With those products, like I said, the down payment requirement's generally 25%. Minimum credit score falls somewhere in the 680 to 700 range. Okay. And income is not an issue. It's great for self-employed borrowers that maybe can't supply tax returns that would show sufficient income to qualify traditionally. Mm-hmm. You don't even get into that. It's a super simple loan. Yeah. The way that we determine the debt service ratio is by the appraisal. When we order an appraisal, it's twofold on these loans. One, it is to determine value and marketability of the property based on the contract price. Mm-hmm. Two, the appraiser also has the responsibility of providing us with a form 1007, which is a comparable rent analysis. And so he's going to provide us with at least 3 comparable properties and what those earnings are, those market rents are on that particular unit in that project. And that's where we come up with the income that we use to determine the debt service ratio. You have questions for me or anything else you want to?
I mean, that is a wealth of information.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's we need to know that. And as a loan officer, of course, just for the sake of time.
Sure.
My other guest is texting me.
Yes. No, let's go.
My question is, when I do refer the potential client to you. Mm-hmm. You pretty much interview them, so to say, and just kind of see what fits for them.
Absolutely.
And so it goes into your hands, and then all the questions needed to be asked is by you, and then you just, so to say, pre-qualify.
That's correct, yeah. And my first conversation is obviously a consultation with the client to determine what's best going to suit their needs. Yes, what product's going to work best for them. And that's the first conversation that we have. I don't just dive into it and say, oh, you need to do this program. Good. I like to give them all of their options.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's how you have to start it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to scare them away.
No.
Anyways,
You just give them, we talk about their financing options, and then they play a part in making that decision of which road they want to go down or what path. The path of least resistance is the one we want to take, obviously.
That's right. Well, I tell you, I'm really looking forward into doing some business with you. And
Love it.
I wish we had a little bit more time.
No,
but
it's
with
fine.
everyone that's lined up, I do want to ask if there's any kind of advice or words of wisdom as a loan officer that you
Yeah.
could share with the potential clients that are going to start listening.
I would say that the most important thing in this process when you're thinking about buying is be prepared. And by that I mean find out all of the documentation that you're going to need. Make a phone call, do a Google search, and find out what is the lender going to need to qualify me. Because it's a lot of paperwork. It's tax returns, W-2 forms, typically, check stubs, bank statements. So preparedness is key in this process. And if they're prepared and they're able to provide all the necessary documentation, I promise you the transaction will go much smoother than if they're not prepared.
That's
Yeah,
true.
for sure. Just be prepared. And, if you need to do some credit repair or boost your scores, start working on that as well, too, at least 30, 60, 90 days out to maximize the best score you can get to get the best rate that you can
the
get.
best rate. That's
Yes,
right.
yes,
That is
yeah.
true.
And quick, I'll mention on rate predictions, and then I know you got to go.
Yeah, go ahead. No, that's fine.
So interest rates are up right now. I think the national average right now is somewhere between 7.25% and 7.5%.
Yes, just
It
right.
is much higher on these condo investor programs. It's in the 9s, so people need to be prepared for that. It's a higher risk loan, okay? And the predictions are from the polled experts, the financial experts, are that hopefully by probably the second to third quarter of 2024, we hope to see rates back in the low 6s, which would be wonderful.
That would
Yeah.
be nice, yes.
So
because
that's
they
the
say it's going to
predictions.
be the norm,
Yes,
5, 6,
yeah.
I hope.
Yeah, it's
But
extremely
yeah, that's
volatile. Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
absolutely. Just
Yeah.
changing all the time, forever
For sure.
changing in the market. I think every 3
Absolutely.
months.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I sure do appreciate your time and just
Thank
giving us
you.
this information. Again, I just look forward in doing some business with you. I got all your
Absolutely.
information, and just expect a call.
I'll be
You have to
waiting
do the
for that
pipeline.
call. I'll be
Okay.
waiting. Okay.
Yes,
Thanks,
I look
Karen. I
forward to it.
appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you
Have a
too,
good
Kim.
night.